Fall 2020. I'm sitting in a college multimedia class and grouped up with the other two people that weren't snobby and mean to work with. I want to make a good impression. I'm excited to work with competent people. That's really hard to come across in college group projects. We have to make an archive on a topic of our choosing. I, being the gamer of the group, jokingly say Sonic because of the movie redesign news, right? These were not gamers, bless their souls. They said, "Oh yeah, I remember liking that game as a kid. Let's do it. Let's build an entire archival project on it." This was our final. And believe it or not, the second of 3 times I would write on Sonic in college. You must be thinking, man, she really must love Sonic. No. I was a Nintendo kid. My parents raised me to have a Mario childhood. So why on earth did I go out of my way to write about Sonic 3 separate times across 4 years of college? I want to deep dive into those projects. I want to talk about my view on the franchise then, and my view on it now after I've played a lot more of the games, and seen the movie universe spin dash its way to success. I want to redeem myself, and this video is the culmination of years and years of growing to appreciate the highs and lows of these titles. I'm emilycookiedough, and here's my retrospective of Sonic the Hedgehog as a Mario fan. My parents sacrificed a lot for baby me, including video games for a bit as they focused on me and the early signs of IBS I apparently had. Listen, this is my 5th video essay now and my 5th year of streaming. We are close enough now that I can say that to you. But I have early memories of Leapster games, Nintendogs, The Sims, GTA 4, and Super Mario World. I also played the first 3 Sonic games, the classics. But my dad educated me on the great war of Mario vs. Sonic, Nintendo vs. Sega. He told me these two were rivals and had a bitter feud. So, as I got older, I leaned more towards Mario platformers and didn't really bother with Sonic just out of respect for the gamer battle. I loved classic Sonic, but was really bad at the games and never actually beat any of them. Meanwhile, I beat Mario Galaxy and discovered video games could be really sad for the first time. It was a deep awakening and a deep emotional connection I developed to that franchise. The closest I got to this was playing Sonic Rush, which may be my all-time favorite in the Sonic franchise. But other than that, it didn't really feel fair for me to compare Sonic at the time, so I just kind of ignored it. You'll see I also made the jump to 3D Mario platformers, but didn't with Sonic's games. That's because around the time I was playing the Mario Galaxy games, early YouTube was becoming a thing. And the platform in its youth had opinions on 3D Sonic. And I say 3D Sonic cause that's really all it was, but clickbait titles went for the entire Sonic franchise. Sonic was buggy, Sonic was badly written, Sonic sucked. Who could possibly like these games? So while I never formed an aggressive hatred of it from the videos alone, I was influenced to unfortunately think less of it. Side note, if you're a couple video essays deep in your day today, then remember to take a moment and form your own opinion of a topic. Don't let me tell you how to live your life. I'm just vibing. The positive memories I have of Sonic from this time come from a little game called
Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games,
which was mind-blowing for my family. Mario and Sonic? This couldn't be. It was impossible. But there it sat on the Walmart shelf. And it spun into a franchise of its own.
Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games.
This became my Sonic connection as a teenager. while Sonic had some hits and some misses during this time, all I knew was that the internet didn't like him, but I sure did enjoy seeing the characters happy with the Mario crew. Then I entered college, fall 2017. I find myself playing Sonic Mania as life in the dorms away from home led to an increase in gaming time. Plus, I had bought a PS4 for myself the year prior and wanted to diversify my gaming taste to be a bit more than just Nintendo and Final Fantasy. So Mania ended up in my gaming catalog, and while I never beat it, I was obsessed with it. The OST is the soundtrack to my freshman year. I listened to it daily. These daily listens may have been what put me in such a Sonic mood for my first semester. My English class was tied into my game development program, so it had a focus on those topics within the realm of games. We were given an informative essay assignment to teach us the basics of research within an opinion piece, instead of being solely facts focused. So, what game franchise is on my mind? I choose to write about the Blue Hedgehog. I title it, How Sonic Fans Saved the Series. And it's a deep dive on the games, their review scores over time, the community over time, and how I felt that was starting to turn around more as the team listened to community feedback. Again, setting the stage, this was fall 2017. Sonic Forces was on the horizon, the first edition of the movie trailer hadn't been released, but Mania was well received and praised by all. This paper had an optimistic ending and was a defense of the fanbase. But I did also open it with, remember when Sonic games used to be good? My bad, y'all. I like to write spicier takes. I try to cool them off now for internet consumption. I don't view Sonic games like that anymore, but I'm glad my opinion was marked in time. And I'm happy to revisit it here, 8 years later. Moving on, jump to my senior year, fall semester. This was fall 2020. COVID lockdown, online classes, and the soft start of my game dev career. I find myself in a multimedia class, where I accidentally turned our final project into a Sonic one. Why? Because I had the movie on my mind. They had just announced that revisions would be happening for this little guy. So I was brought back to my freshman paper. I thought about how maybe Sonic hadn't quite had the improvements I had been so optimistic for, with Forces being received as kinda okay-ish, but not nearly the praise like Mania did. So when I suggested it for the archive, it was a joke. It hurts to say, but that was my view of Sonic. A fun joke to bring up. For the archive project itself, we focused on each era of Sonic, and since my teammates had nostalgia for the classics as well, and I was the gamer in the know-how, I took on the Sonic Boom era and the movie one. So yeah, my view shifted back to Sonic being bad, the internet opinions filtering into the background as I smiled and played my Mario games. My good games. Now to the end of my last semester, just 6 months after that project. I decided to write one of my final essays on a topic that if I ever went back to get more schooling, I'd want to expand on this for a thesis. I wrote an essay titled, Bad Games, Do They Exist? And yes, several men did laugh at me and say, yes, stupid, it's in the name. But I wrote it regardless. It wasn't centered on solely Sonic this time, but a variety of games. Some received well critically that fans hated at the time, some that critics hated but became cult classics, and some that weren't received well either way. But this paper also dove into a content creation focus on people reviewing bad games. How it was entertaining to see a game so bad it's funny. Aren't games supposed to invoke fun? It is a very incorrect path to get to that point, yeah, but if a game provokes an emotional response, hasn't it accomplished its goal? If people rage play, doesn't it have an audience? Those were the questions at the heart of the paper, so I felt it was right to mention Sonic. In fact, I end the paper with it, pointing out that both 06 and Boom had game-breaking bugs that made the games unplayable and unpopular on launch, but that these bugs could be considered funny and entertaining. So even though games like this should never be the end goal for a conventional enjoyment, perhaps they weren't as horrible as I originally thought. Why the change in heart? At this point, I had run a full development cycle on my college friends and I's first indie game. At this point, I was interviewing for what would be my first AAA gig, and I had also been streaming for a couple years, so I saw how negative and harsh gamers could be towards developers. But I also now was starting to understand all the places where a game could falter in the process. If anything, it's a miracle any games get made at all. So rather than a change in heart, it was a change of mind. I could understand the dev side of the story now. My final college paper was a love letter to all the essays and projects that came before it. A way of saying, there's another argument to be made, another story to be told. By graduating, I set out to explore that other story. Now, no, I didn't go into game development just to redeem myself for my Sonic opinions, though that would have been poetic. But I did keep streaming after college. I keep streaming today over on Twitch. So as my audience grew and I played my Final Fantasies and my Mario games, that audience overlapped into those that enjoyed Sonic games. So jokingly, me playing Sonic games on the channel would come up. Then, I didn't want it to be a joke anymore. For a charity stream goal, I said I would do a full playthrough of Sonic 06. We met that goal, and I followed through on that promise. This was before I recorded my VODs, but there are memorable clips of the pain. And I didn't want to stream it just to meme on it, I wanted to truly examine it, to reform my opinion. At first, when playing through the Sonic story, I'll admit it was a little rough. I got motion sick several times, wanted to cry from the hour it took me to get through Crisis City, and that kiss does not get any less horrifying with age. So I felt pretty much the same as I had in college. This was an entertaining game, but a broken one nonetheless. Then I played the Shadow and Silver stories. Still broken, still buggy, story was still cringy, but I started to understand the hype. See, this game has developed sort of a cult following. Folks that swear with a little more love this game could have been the best in the series. And if you only play the Sonic portion, it doesn't make much sense. But all the non-Sonic team characters are broken in an overpowered way, while Sonic's team is broken in a you are now soft-locked way. And the Shadow and Silver stories are an improvement. They held my interest a lot more, and watching them all interconnect was genuinely a cool moment. That was not something I expected to feel going into this game. It was something I could only experience by picking up the controller myself. I'm glad I did. Plus, this game marked the first Sonic game I actually beat, so it's certainly something. It got to the point that even while playing through the final story with all the characters, I felt disappointed when the story would switch back to Sonic, or the gameplay would switch back over to Tails, because I just wanted to see all the other characters a bit more. So now that I knew there was magic to be found under the bugginess, I gave myself the personal goals of streaming Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric and Sonic Forces, to reassess my opinions on those as well. I felt maybe I had been too harsh on everything. I wanted to experience these games for what they were, not for what others told me about them. On the channel, I set these as follower milestones and added them to the schedule upon reaching them. Unfortunately, with Sonic Boom, I had the opposite reaction I did to Sonic 06. With 06, I was expecting the worst and was pleasantly surprised by the end. With Boom, I was expecting at least entertaining cutscenes and bugs I could use to break the game to my advantage, like the Knuckles jump glitch. But my version was patched and allegedly working, unfortunately. And the cutscenes ended up feeling very stale and boring. Playing through felt like a chore. It felt empty. I don't think this is on the devs fully, as I understand it, this game had an incredibly tight schedule that would not move and a product had to be released. But a lot less of the vision made it into this game, to the point that I think the game would still suffer from design, narrative, and art problems, even if all the technical bugs were resolved. It's a shame too, because this was advertised as the main focal point of the Sonic Boom era, but all the other games, comics, and the very funny TV show showed this iteration of Sonic had decent and funny world building, with a lot of future game potential. But all of that was held back by the Wii U edition, and the fact that when the average person thinks of Sonic Boom, they remember this. After a pleasant surprise and an unfortunate letdown, I was curious to see how I would feel on finally playing Sonic Forces. And it was alright, I guess. I think I unironically enjoyed 06 the most. Sonic Forces did entertain me with the story though, but more in a comedy way rather than a wait, this is actually a bit cool type of way. I didn't mind the shorter gameplay as I just wanted to finish it all in a quick weekend, and I enjoyed the levels I played as it took me back to classic Sonic. I enjoyed modern Sonic's moveset here too, and the self-insert character felt a bit out of place, but this game reads so much like fanfic anyway that it wasn't a breaking point for me. I think I just feel neutral on it, cause it's not what I would call a bad game compared to the other ones. For the people that like it, I can fully see why. I think my initial hopes for Forces back in 2017 was that it would be the next Sonic Mania, that it would convince me to love modern Sonic gameplay, that it was something not only every Sonic fan, but every gamer could get behind and say, I'm happy for this franchise. But it wasn't that good, and it wasn't that bad either. So the Sonic conversation just kind of stalled and slowly shifted back to Sonic not being that great. Now, having beaten all 3 games, I can admit they aren't great, but they did weirdly make me appreciate Sonic a lot more and gain a higher opinion of the franchise. To really cement this newfound appreciation of Sonic games, I had another milestone goal: to play the new release of Sonic Generations, with the Shadow expansion. And as expected, I had a great time. Except for the end of Generations, which I currently still haven't beaten that boss fight. It's so disappointingly broken. But Shadow Generations was an incredible experience. This right here is the game I was hoping for when Forces was announced. This is the Sonic title I had been waiting for. Good story, killer graphics, not too buggy, a blend of classic and modern gameplay with a touch of innovation. And you know, I don't think I would have played it had I not revisited the trio of rougher titles first. Not to contrast how much better Generations is, but instead to see all the potential and seeds planted in those games come to life and get the praise they deserve in present day. Considering the slow but steady increase in average game quality, the balance of old and new, and the wildly successful movies and TV shows that the more wholesome take on the Hedgehog and his friends have had, I hope that maybe this time around I'm a little more accurate in predicting a modern Sonic renaissance. It doesn't feel like a prediction though, it feels like we're currently in it. People like Sonic again. Even if you didn't like Sonic Frontiers like I mentioned in my last video essay, you probably didn't hate it the way you might have some previous releases. They still took a shot at a new gameplay design that landed better than Rise of Lyric did. The team is still putting in the work and the innovation. I hope that they have a big hit soon. please let that age well. Gamer wars of PC versus console, Sony versus Xbox, Nintendo versus Sega have gone up with social media and everyone's opinion being everywhere. By mentioning it online, I have just now contributed to the problem. But when tying back to the original Mario vs. Sonic, I'm glad to see the directions both have taken. These are little guys whose games should bring you childhood wonder regardless of age. I'm sorry that I didn't just sit down and play the titles for myself. Every good title has flaws, but bad ones can have their moments of clarity. And Sonic used to and still can be viewed just as the negatives. I no longer will be that person with that view of Sonic. These games rule. I suck at them, but they are fun and make their fans happy. I'll end this the same way I ended my first paper on the franchise. With more attention to fans, more attention to quality, and a better implementation of ideas, Sonic fans have a lot to look forward to. Whether you're a Sonic fan or hater, I hope you were able to enjoy the video, and thank you for hearing my thoughts on the franchise. Part of the reason I started making video essays is because a piece of me misses the essays that I wrote for college projects. Consider this my current day homework, and that means I've actually just written a 4th essay on Sonic. I have a follower goal on Twitch right now to play Sonic Unleashed soon, and it's easily been the most requested example of a fun 3D Sonic game. So I hope to see you all over there, and I hope to see you for the next video essay, which will be coming out in about a month.